A famous pilot flies over the biggest ocean on Earth. She is trying to fly all the way around the world. But then, her plane disappears. Her last radio calls are faint. Then, there is only silence. Where did Amelia Earhart go? For many years, this has been one of our greatest mysteries. Most people believe her plane simply ran out of gas. They think it crashed into the deep water and was lost forever. The search for her plane in the ocean was huge, but nothing was found. This left the story with a sad, simple ending. But some people thought the story wasn't over. They looked for a different answer. A new idea began to grow. A different kind of story. This idea is called the Nikumaroro hypothesis. It suggests that Amelia Earhart did not just vanish into the sea. This hypothesis says she found a small piece of land. It says she landed her plane and tried to survive. This changes the whole mystery. The new story points to a tiny, faraway island named Nikumaroro. It is a small strip of coral in the middle of a very big ocean. It is a hard place to find and a hard place to live. But for a pilot lost at sea, it would have looked like a safe place to land. Investigators started to look very closely at this lonely island. The first clue came from the airwaves. In the days after the plane was lost, radio operators heard strange messages. The calls were weak and hard to understand. Some thought they could hear a voice calling for help. These signals were traced to the area near Nikumaroro. This was the first hint that the Earhart mystery might have a different ending. Years later, something important was found on the island. A set of bones was discovered. At first, scientists did not think they belonged to a woman, but much later, new science looked at the old records. The new study said the bones could have been from a woman like Amelia Earhart, someone tall and strong. More clues were found in the sand of Nikumaroro. Searchers found an old shoe, a broken jar of freckle cream, and pieces of a plane. These were not things you would expect to find on an empty island. The items seemed to come from the same time that Amelia Earhart was flying. They were small pieces of a very big puzzle. Putting all these clues together creates the Nikumaroro hypothesis. The theory is that Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, landed on the island. They may have sent radio calls for help until their plane's radio stopped working. They may have tried to live on the island, waiting for a rescue that never came. The search for the truth about Amelia Earhart continues. The Nikumaroro hypothesis gives us a story of hope and survival. It keeps the mystery alive. Investigators still go to the island, looking for more proof. We keep searching because finding the answer honors the spirit of a brave explorer who flew into the great unknown. What if the last words of a hero were not a cry for help, but a clue? For decades, the world believed Amelia Earhart's plane vanished into the ocean. But a different story, a quiet idea, waited on a tiny, empty island. In 1937, Amelia Earhart wanted to fly around the world. It was a brave journey. Her last flight was over the huge Pacific Ocean. She and her helper, Fred Noonan, were almost done with their trip. Then, they disappeared. The last radio messages said they were low on fuel. They were looking for a tiny island to land on. After that, there was only silence. The biggest search ever was started. Ships and planes looked for them. But they found nothing. No plane, no people. The world was told they crashed in the sea. This was the official story for a very long time. Years later, a new idea started to grow. This idea is called the Nikumaroro hypothesis. Nikumaroro is a small, lonely island. It was very close to where Amelia was last heard from. The hypothesis, or guess, says Amelia did not crash in the deep ocean. It suggests she found the island of Nikumaroro. She landed her plane on a flat reef by the shore. This idea started with a report from long ago. In 1940, a British officer was on the island. He found some things that did not belong. He found part of a human skeleton. Next to the bones, he found part of a woman's shoe. He also found a box that once held a tool for navigation. These clues were sent away to be studied. Doctors at the time looked at the bones. They said they belonged to a man. The clues were then lost. The story was forgotten for many years. Many years later, a group of investigators found the old report. This group is called TIGHAR. They look for lost airplanes. They read the old notes very carefully. They took the old bone measurements to new doctors. Using modern science, the new doctors had a different thought. They said the bones were likely from a woman, not a man. A woman about the same size as Amelia Earhart. This new information made the investigators go to Nikumaroro. They have gone back many times. They searched the island, looking for more clues to the Earhart mystery. On the island, they found small things that tell a big story. They found pieces of a glass jar. It looked like a jar for a special face cream Amelia used. They also found an old pocket knife. It was the same kind Fred Noonan carried. They found a zipper from a flight jacket. These small items were found where the bones were first seen. Another part of the mystery is the radio. After Amelia disappeared, radio operators heard faint calls for help. They heard them for several days. At the time, the calls were weak. People thought they were fake. The Nikumaroro hypothesis gives them a home. The plane on the reef could have sent signals when the tide was low. Then, a very important clue was found. A piece of metal was discovered on the island. It was a special piece of aluminum. It looked like it came from an airplane. Investigators studied the piece of metal for a long time. They compared it to a picture of Amelia's plane. In the picture, a shiny patch covered a window. The piece of metal from the island was a perfect match. The Nikumaroro hypothesis puts all these clues together. It creates a possible story. This is a story of survival on a lonely island. The story suggests Amelia and Fred lived for a short time as castaways. They tried to call for help. They tried to survive. But help never came. Is this story true? We do not know for sure. The plane has never been found in the deep water around the island. Without the plane, the mystery is not solved. But the Nikumaroro hypothesis is a very strong idea. It is built on years of careful searching. It is built on science and detective work. It gives us a new way to think about the Amelia Earhart mystery. The search for answers continues. Each new clue brings us closer. The work honors the spirit of a brave flyer. The mystery of what happened to Amelia Earhart keeps us looking for the truth.